Hey, welcome, welcome, welcome. Suckers, got you to another one. Excellent. Who's been to one of my talks before? Why do you keep coming back? I taught you this stuff. Should be a new presentation. This is my fourth time doing something about movement and MOCs and stuff. Last year at the end of my talk, I put out a little questionnaire or survey. It's like, what else do you want? Most of the people responded with gears. So I'm going with gears. I do have another survey I'll put out at the end of the day, again, asking, what else do you want? That'll help me. And the bottom one is easy. It's like, no, stop doing stuff. You've done enough. Okay, so easy enough. So this stuff, I can look up there. I can look down here. This is totally weird. That's good. Gears, movement. That's what we're gonna do. This kind of stuff. Does that look intimidating to anybody? Just showing that. Who sees that and they're like, okay, I'm gonna sneak out the back. I don't want to do this anymore. It's okay. It's totally painless. We won't put you through that machine, which is really good. This is what I'm hoping to go over. I'll see how fast I can talk, how much information I can put out, and how long I overtalk and too much. I got 69 slides. I got it down from 140. So I spent a lot of time making these slideshows, and it's totally fun. You can, too close, too much? Booyah! Right there, okay, yeah. It's a lot of Brandon in your face, I understand that, okay. So engineering 096, when I went to college, I did my entry exam, and in English, they placed me in English 096, because I didn't qualify for 101. They said I wasn't goodly enough in my talking stuff. So this is low-level engineering stuff real quick. Gears, been around in Lego form since '63. The big sprocket ones, those are kind of fun. And in '77, that's when Lego came out with what we now call Technic. That's when we got the 8-tooth, the 24-tooth, and the 40-tooth gear. More on those later, but they've been around since the '70s, okay? Some of you have been around since the '70s. Yes, there we go. Excellent. So I do remember when these kinds of things came out when I was a kid, and that was kind of cool. So pin basics, real simple. If you're not familiar with Technic stuff, if Technic is not your area, there's friction pins. They're a little bit tight-wound. And there's the non-friction pins, which are really kind of loosey-goosey. They are different. I didn't learn this till I was in my 40s. I always thought they were the same, just different colors. Working with gears, the ones that are a little bit more helpful are the bottom ones there, the combination pins where it's half axle, half pin. Sometimes you need to connect a gear to something, but only to the Technic beam or something. So the non-friction tan ones are very convenient for that because they spin nice and loose. Sometimes you need to introduce a little more resistance in a mechanism. And the blue ones can be nice because they will still attach to the gear, go into the pins, or go into the beams and such with the pin connection, and have a little bit of resistance and friction. Just a little bit of tip there. There's more pin types, if you don't know them. There's even more than this, but basically think of friction and non-friction. The friction ones are all black and blue. The non-friction ones are all tan and gray. And they also have red and yellow that they're introducing, which is frustrating because I learned these colors. Yeah, but they do still follow the friction on friction. In general, simple machines, this is the core alphabet of all mechanical engineering. If you don't know these 6 simple machines, find a resource that will help understand them. Great YouTube videos out there, little tutorials and things, lots of fun stuff. But this is great for understanding how machines work. The basic concept is changing magnitude or direction of a force. Make something go a different way, or make it go at a different speed or at a different force. There's lots of math that you can do with these things. That's not why we're here. So we're going to just focus on the fact that they're cute little things and they do stuff. Exactly. Okay? So simple machines, get to know them. Maybe that's a talk for another day. Any kind of simple machines combined together make a more complex machine, like a gear. A gear is not a simple machine, more complex. It's got more functions in it, and we're going to use those to do stuff. Okay? There you go. You just passed 096. On to 101. That's good. All right, gear basics, just learning about gears. You never touched them before. You don't know what they are. You find them in the bulk bins. You're like, it's weird. Got to have a proper mesh. When they mesh together, the teeth of the gears really need to fit properly. Can't tell you how much I see with, do you not fit properly sometimes? Does it not mesh right for you sometimes? Okay, I'm sorry. That's a personal issue. We'll talk about that later. It's okay. Okay. So make sure they're not too tight. Make sure they're not too loose. They got to fit just right. Okay? That's kind of cool. So 2 gears working together turn in opposite directions. It seems pretty logical, but sometimes we forget that. You build a thing, you hook it up, you turn it on. It's like, why is it going backwards? Well, because you got 2 gears. Okay, that's okay. Maybe make the first one go the other way. And the other one will go the other way. That's all right. Gears always have an input gear or a driver gear. Okay, that's where the thing is going in. You're starting the force there. It connects to an output gear where it's going off to do something else. Input and output, first, second, driver gear and follower gear. Different terms, but input, output. Easy enough, I hope. Okay. Gear basics. Any time you want to put a gear between gears, you can do that. You still have an input, you still have an output, but you can put some gears between them. If you need to space them farther apart, maybe they're getting too comfy or farther apart. Those are called idler gears. The idler gears space things out. One idler gear will reverse the direction. So now the input and output will go the same direction. But if you put two idler gears, now they're going to go back to opposite directions again. You can put a whole bunch of idler gears together and it creates a gear train and just have a whole bunch of them. So you can do that to space things out. Using smaller idler gears can create some resistance and friction. Using larger ones gets you farther spacing and makes it a little bit smoother. Depends on the machine you're working with, but idler gears can be your friend to move things farther apart. Okay? Idler gears do not affect gear ratios, which we'll talk about shortly. Don't freak out on that word right there that you heard back in middle school. That's okay. But they do not affect the gear ratio, just the input and the output. Okay? All right, on to gear types. Gear pairings. Again, I'm going to go through this quick, and then we're going to get to the more meaty stuff, hopefully. If you're using gears and you want the axles to be in parallel with each other, cool. Then you got gears that are just meshing side by side, sitting right there. That's an easy one. And these are those gears. They're called spur gears. You know, spurs like a cowboy. Yeehaw, giddy up, little cowboy. And these are the ones. You got an 8-tooth, 16-tooth, 24-tooth, 40-tooth. That's it. Those are your spur gears. That's easy. Seem easy? Freak anybody out yet? You don't even want to answer because you're freaked out. Okay, so I'll just move on. So if you want clutch gears are kind of cool. The white one on the end is an older one, but still's out there. The center axle hole can move independent of the outside. So if you put an axle in the middle, connect a gear to it, there's enough resistance in there that it will turn. But if one side, the inside or the outside, jams up or slows down or encounters too much resistance, the center one can spin independent of the outside one, so it slips like a clutch. That's why they're called clutch gears. All of the other ones that are up here are more for like transmission drives, like in some of the really fancy Technic cars and things. And you actually want to do a gear transmission where you might have one gear that's spinning constantly, and then you want to take this other gear and move it over and engage it and make it start turning, or shift it to another gear that engages with it and starts moving. Okay? So clutch gears, good for moving and making transmissions. Okay. Changing axle direction, going perpendicular axles. Maybe your motor is connected to something this way, but you want something to go over in a different direction. Okay, we can do that with a different type of gear that'll change directions. Crown gears, beveled gears, change axle directions, and we can do perpendicular axles. Okay? Go around a corner or something. Double beveled gears, meaning it's beveled on both sides. Bevel just means that it's, instead of the gears meshing straight on like this, one of them is cut off and is meshing around the corner, going on the side. The double beveled ones can mesh on both sides. But the double beveled ones can also mesh in line, like the spur gears. So you can go straight, or you can go beveled. And my friend Kyle Keller showed me that you can even put them on a 45-degree angle. It gets really weird. Don't. No, it's really cool, but it's kind of challenging. Okay. So the little wheel one at the end, the knob gear, the dog gear, does the same kind of thing. Inline or 40 or a 90-degree meshing. So there's kind of gears. So there's all the basic gears. Gear sizes right there. 8 different types of gears, or 8 different sizes of gears of the 2 different types, 3 different types. Been pretty straightforward? You remember those all? No, I don't remember. It took me like 3 years to start to remember the numbers and things. If you don't remember the numbers, don't worry about it. There's resources you can figure it out, or you can just sit there and count them. Each tooth is a gear. It's pretty easy. It's pretty cool. Okay? But knowing the numbers eventually helps do some more advanced functionality with it. Okay? Oh, I got a point. There we go. Rack gears are a different type of gear. They're not round. They're linear. They're flat. They're straight. So good for going in a straight line, making linear motion. You can take a round gear, connect it to a linear gear, go back and forth. The banana gears, the big curved gears, are totally cool. You can make a complete circle, or you can use them as a quarter circle or a half circle, 3/4 circle. But they're curved on the inside. A little bit different there. Worm gear is one of my favorite gears. It's a one-tooth gear. I'm a one-tooth gear. All I got me is one tooth. Okay? But it's really great for slowing things down, giving a lot of torque, which we'll talk about shortly. There's this little clear gearbox, comes in other colors, and it works with worm gear and the 24-tooth spur gear. It just fits in there, and it just works. You can use Lego pieces of other types to make that same connection so those gears work together, or there's just a piece that kind of does it for you. Both are okay. No judgment there. Okay. And they're still available. You can actually get them on Pick-a-Brick through Lego right now. They're like $1 or something like that. The new worm gear screw, who's seen that or played with that or had that? Yeah, isn't that cool? It's so awesome. It just doesn't work with any of the gears. Like it's its own weird system. There's a couple weird things I've seen people say, no, you can kind of make it work with this other one. It's like, yeah, but not really. I've not seen it really functionally used to work with other gear systems or the other types of gears. So it's its own little thing, and I'm going to leave it out there on its own little thing. If you want to prove me wrong and go, no, Brandon, I've seen it done, and it does it like this. Cool, I'd love to learn that, because I'm still learning stuff too. And it's a newer piece. That's cool. Differentials come in all shapes and sizes through the era. If you're doing like a car and a transmission and you want the back wheels one to turn faster than the other, differential, he's your friend. But it could be used in other mechanical things as well. It's a much more advanced engineering topic that I don't want to get into today, but I want you to know what's out there, the thing. The turntables, the inside spins separate from the outside. Okay, that's pretty easy. And you can hook a gear to those to make them go. Splat gears came out a few years ago. They're totally cool. The big difference with these guys is the hole in the center. The hole in the center is just round. So an axle does not connect to it directly. You'd have to use a third part piece to hook it in there somehow to make that connection. A 2x2 round brick or some other element that has stud connection and an axle hole in the middle. But they can mesh inline or perpendicular as well. Kind of cool. So those are all the gears. Easy? No, okay, good. So if you want to hook them together and make them work, there are certain ones that work together and certain ones that don't. If you want to use any of the spur gears, all the spur gears work together, but they also work with the crown gear and the double bevel gears and the rack gears. Okay, easy enough, little Venn diagram. Does that visually work? Good, okay, good. Somebody nodded. If you want to use the double bevel gears, all the double bevel gears work together. Very cool. But you can also use the regular bevel gears, and you can use the crown gears, and you can use the spur gears, and you can use the rack gears. Okay, that's kind of cool. If you want to use the worm gear has to be the input gear, cannot be the output gear. It's a one-direction connection. You drive the worm gear with like a motor or something, and then it makes another gear move. But you can't go the other way. You can't go, I'm going to turn this 40-tooth gear and make the worm gear go. It won't work. Just mechanically, it doesn't work that way. So worm gears, one direction only. And they only work with these guys. They don't work with the banana gears, even though they're in my circle. I don't know, I got lazy. I didn't want too many circles. So don't use them with the banana gears. It's curved and the thing's not, and it gets really funky and weird. Okay? And of course, the knob gears and the splat gears, they work together as well also. So in general, there's a Venn diagram of gears and stuff that works together. I've got a copy of it here. I'll put it out after, and if you want to come take a snapshot of it and go, ooh, I have a copy of it. I'll even sign it and stuff if you want. Or if that doesn't work, email me and I'll just email you a copy of it. Happy to do that. Happy to share that as a resource. All right, so that's gears. Speed versus torque. Does that scare anybody? Some people say no. Yes. Some people, okay, good. So speed, obviously something moving at a quick rate. Torque is a twisting force. If you reach out and grab a doorknob and twist, that's a twisting force, okay? Something that twists. How much twisting force is there in there? That's torque. So if we have two gears, working with a simple system here, and the two gears happen to be the same size, like these two 24-tooth gears. Got a 24-tooth gear input, got a 24-tooth gear output. Okay, so every time the input gear turns one time in a circle, how many teeth went around that circle? 24 for the half of you that understood that. That's good. And that means that it's going to push on the output gear how many teeth? 24. So it has 24, so it's also going to go in a circle one time. So they're going to turn around a circle at the same time, at the same speed, with the same amount of torque. It's a balanced system. If it was an 8-tooth gear to an 8-tooth gear, they would both turn at the same speed with the same torque. 40-tooth gears would turn at the same speed, at the same rate, at the same torque. Same size, same input, same output, same speed, same torque. But the beauty of the gears is when we change one of them. So if the input gear is a little bit bigger, like a 40-tooth, and the output gear is still a 24-tooth, Input gear is going to turn, 40 teeth go around. How many teeth does it have to push on the output? 40 teeth have to be moved, but there's only 24 teeth there. So it has to go around and it has to go a little bit more. It's like, okay, hold on, I gotta catch up to you. Hold on, 40 tooth gear, I'm not there yet. So it's gotta go a little bit faster. When that happens, speed and torque are inverse opposites. So if you have speed goes up, torque goes down by the same inverse amount. If the other goes up, the other goes down. So they're gonna move at the same rate. So we're gonna gain a little bit of speed, but we're gonna lose a little bit of that torque. That make sense, everybody? Okay, good. I did something right. Coolness. If we change it a little bit, we still got a big gear to a small gear, but it's 24 tooth gear to an 8 tooth gear. 24 teeth are going to get pushed around. 24 teeth have to get pushed around the output, but it's an 8 tooth. So it's going to go once, twice, 3 times, because 8 times 3 is 24. Yeah, thank you. Okay, good. Somebody paid attention in school. That's good. Excellent. So now we got 3 times the speed. It's going 3 times as fast as whatever motor or hand crank you're turning. Output's 3 times faster, but it's 1/3 the torque. It has less oomph, less twisting force. But if we up that a little bit more, we go to a 40 tooth for the input and a little tiny baby 8 tooth for the output. We get 5 times the speed. This thing is just cruising 5 times, but 1/5 the torque. So it's not real strong. It's really fast. Okay, that's cool. Kind of like that person you dated one time, you remember? Okay. Yeah. Okay, so here's an example. You probably saw this or maybe saw this down. I have this example down there. My little speedboat. I wanted a speedboat, so it had a really fast propeller. So I have an input gear. I have this hooked up to a motor down in the hall. 20 tooth input gear, and a whole bunch of idler gears. A lot of idler gears. How do I factor in the ratio of the idler gears? It doesn't matter. You ignore them. You ignore every single idler gear. You look at the input gear at the first one, and then you look at the output gear at the end. Because every time that input gear turns and pushes 1 tooth, now that first idler gear is going to push 1 tooth. The next one's going to push 1 tooth, 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 till you get to the end, push 1 tooth. And the size of the final one, the output, that determines your gear ratio. Input, output. Ignore the rest. They don't matter. So here we got a little bit of a gear ratio to increase the speed, to make it a little bit go faster. That's cool. So, but what if we change it the other way? We're like, oh, I like that, Brandon, but I don't want that. I want the other thing. Okay, so we can go smaller gear pushing a bigger gear. Same concept, just in the other direction, because inverse opposites go the other way. So now I can get less speed because I want to slow it down. I don't want it to go fast. I want it to go slow. Take it slow, baby. Take it slow. Can do that. Okay, it's going to have a lot more torque, though. Let's can do that. And if we go to an 8 tooth to a 24 tooth, okay, I got 3 times the torque. A lot more power. A lot slower, though. Okay, that could be cool. And if I want to go to a 8 to a 40, then I've got, it's math. Do you see how the math is kind of working there? Remember, it's ratios. They taught you ratios at one point in school. I'm sure they did. Okay? So we get 1/5 of the speed, but 5 times the torque. Maybe you want to lift a big bridge or you want to move a big thing. Okay, maybe you need a lot of torque. That's kind of cool. How does that feel for everybody? Not too bad? Some people are like, and some people are like, what? I need to take this class again. Hopefully it'll be available for recording later. So, example of gearing something to go slower. Okay? Slower but stronger. Here I've got a 12 tooth input, 20 tooth output. Okay, so it's not a lot of change. 1.67, it's not too bad, but gives me a little bit difference there. And there's my little record player. Who saw the record player down there? Oh, somebody saw my stuff. I'm so honored. It's so cool. So cool. All right, let's move on. Now, here's a bunch of gear ratios. That's kind of a lot of information. This is online. You can find this. I'll show you where to get it here in a bit. But if you took an input gear of an 8 tooth and an output gear of a 40 tooth, input is green, output is red, and you cross-reference them, you get a 3-to-1 ratio. Okay, that's cool. If you go the other way, you're like, well, what if I want the 24 as the input, the 8 as the output? 1-to-3 ratio. Just a matter of whether you're getting speed or torque. If you use the same size gears, what happens? Same, 1-to-1 ratio, so long as they're both the same. Okay? But you can figure things out and do speed, or you can do torque. And worm gears have to be which gear? input. Got to be like, you guys are good at this. I love it. Okay. All right. But what if, more speed or more torque? Tornado of creation there for those of you Ninjago fans. Kind of, not really. I just figured it was something. So when you do compound gearing, who's ever done compound gearing before? Okay, you guys are good to go. No. Okay. So compound gearing, not too complex, but it's like it sounds, compounding. We're going to do it. So we're going to do an 8 to a 40. Does that feel kind of comfortable now? And we get a 5 to 1, so we're going to get a little bit more torque. And we're going to go a lot slower. Really slowing this thing down by 1/5. Okay. You can say 5 times slower or 1/5. I don't care. Okay. But then on that output axle, the same axle that your output is at, you're going to add another gear. And that's going to become a new input gear. And that's going to go to a new output gear, which gives you another 5 to 1 ratio. That's kind of cool. But the total, the combined from the first input to the last output is not just 5 to 1. You've got to do some really great, they taught you this, right? How to take two things and divide and then cross over and do this and then divide by the opposites and then you remember that? Do you remember they showed you that? Yeah. It's 5 times 5 is really what it is. So 5 times 5, we get a 25 to 1 ratio. So I did it once, I did it twice, I compounded it. I now have something that's going to go 1/25th the speed, or 25 times slower. It's going to be very, very slow, but it's 25 times stronger than whatever my input was. That's a lot more torque. You can start twisting axles at this. I've done that. I've taken axles and twisted them 180 degrees against themselves. And they're really cool, but not fun for the mock, I tell you that. Okay? So here's one where I did compound gearing, the little shooting star thing. Maybe you saw this down there. It's got an 8 to a 24, and then another 8 to another 24. So I got a 3 to 1 and a 3 to 1, 3 times 3, 9. Okay, just move over this way. We'll just... Okay, so I get nice slow motion, really slow. Do I need a lot of torque here? It's a really light thing. There's almost no resistance to it. I don't need the torque, but I wanted it slow. I was able to slow it way down and give me the speed I wanted. And if it was not the right speed, I could change some of the gears around and combine them differently and get different stuff. Okay? This one uses the worm gear. And so you got a motor going into a gearbox. There's worm gear at the bottom. There's a gear on the end. Ignore that one. That one's just there for manual control, so I can force it if I needed to align it. But a 1-tooth gear to a 24-tooth gear, 24 to 1 gear ratio. Interesting. Okay. So it's going at 1/24th the speed with just 2 gears. The other way I compounded it, I was able to get 5 times 5, 25, 1/25th, or I can get a 24th. Kind of a different way to do that. And then on the output axle, I just put a little offset beam and attached a pin to it. So that pin in the 1x2 brick is going around a circle, correct? But it's going around the outside of a circle. Going around the outside of a circle is eccentric or off-center motion. So I've got off-center motion, and I just attached a little beam to it, and it's just hanging out there and resting on a thing. Oh, I'm sorry. They didn't like my talk. That's okay. Get out of here. No. See you next year. Yeah. So got a fun little motion there. Does that make sense? Okay, cool. Gear alignments. So when you take gears and you put them in those little holes, you familiar with those little holes? Most of you, some of you. Okay, good. Technicals. Okay, so they fit in there with axles or pins or whatever we talked about. Okay, and they go next to each other, and the teeth magically mesh in the right alignment, right? Every time. But sometimes they don't mesh. Sometimes they're off by half, and you can't just move it over. You move it over one hole, it's too close. Move it over the other hole, it's too far away. They don't touch. They're cursed. But we have a way to fix that. Lego's like, dun, 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 dun. We have things that have holes that are halfway offset or aligned with the studs instead of between the studs. Okay? We can do that with bricks. We can do that with Technic pieces. We can move over by half to make up that little bit of difference. Kind of cool. So there we go. Now we have good meshing. We can do different sizes. Kind of cool. Anybody encountered that before where you had to move something over a little bit? Oh, yeah, we know we have. We know we have. That's good. Okay, that's cool. So to help you with that, there's this easy-to-reference chart, right? Okay, so if you take an input gear and an output gear and you add together the number of teeth, and then you find out how many multiples of 16 that is, well, 8 and 24, that's 32. That's a multiple of 2 16s. That means you need to move over just one extra hole or 2 holes apart. So anything that's a solid multiple of 16s, they just fit. 16, 32, 48, 48, all the way up to 5. They just fit. Kind of easy. Nobody likes to build this way, though. Nobody's digging in your bin and going, oh, let's see, I need to find me a multiple of 16 pair of gears over here so it'll fit into my axle. Oh, yeah, these two. This is a multiple of 16. I know how to work with this. But it's helpful if you start to do some of the calculations. You're like, why doesn't it fit? Okay, we can figure that out, and I'll help you with that. Now, if you do your factors and you figure out it's a half of a factor of 16. It's not quite a full factor, but it's a half factor, 16 and a half. Okay, then it's going to be off by one of those half measurements. Got to move over half a stud. So not too far, 24, 48, 56, 72. If your teeth add up to those numbers, you're going to be a half. Is that confusing? Good. Okay, don't worry too much about it. But if you do the numbers and you add them all up and it comes out as a quarter or a 3/4 of a factor of 16, those don't mesh. Just don't even try. Just don't do it. There's some ways it can be done, but don't hurt yourself unless you're really comfortable with it, okay? So this little chart right here, again, I have this one. I'll leave that out so you can take a picture of that if you would like. Basically that chart without the X's. Or if you would like it in person, I can email it to you, okay? If you're going vertically, just taking Technic bricks and stacking them on top of each other does not equal the same as it goes horizontally. Those don't mesh. Don't do that. That form. I will hunt you down. Okay. Not really. Sorry, edit that out. Okay, thank you. Cool. Okay. But if you add one plate, you can get meshing where the gears are offset by 1 hole or sometimes 2 holes, but they're offset a little bit, off to one side. Okay, so 1 plate, that's kind of helpful. Certain gears will fit that way, certain gears won't. It's all right. But if you had 2 plates between 2 Technic beams, the holes are 3 holes apart, which means it is now back onto standard spacing, which is a really nice technique. And you just get regular meshing. Okay? You can't mesh in that middle hole because there's 2 plates there. I don't know who stuck them there, but they're there. They're in your way. Okay? So whatever you want to do with any of your gears, do remember proper meshing is important. Okay? There's a lot of other resources out there that can show you some different combinations and different techniques, but that's sort of just generally start there. Okay? Go horizontally, great. If you go vertically, recognize it's going to be a little bit trickier. Might have to add a plate or 2, offset them to the side, one way or the other. They can fit. If you put them together and they're too tight, is that good? No. If they're too loose, no. Just right. Make that happen. Sound good? Okay, good. Nobody's learned anything yet. I'm feeling kind of bad. Okay, design process. Somebody asked me about this, so I thought, okay, I'll throw it in here. So how do I do this stuff? Well, we know that motors, assuming you're using a motor or a hand crank or some sort of an input device, is a circular motion. In this type of engineering, we've got 4 types of motion that you can deal with. Okay? You can have more circular motion, but somewhere else. My motor's over here, but I want it over there, but I still want it to be going around. Maybe it's faster, maybe it's slower, maybe it's the other direction, but it's still going around. Okay, I want other rotary motion or circular motion. I want something to go in a straight line. Okay, I just want linear motion. Go that way. Okay, we can figure that out. I want oscillating motion, swinging back and forth from a fixed point. You're swinging on an arc and you got a fixed point. Okay, that's oscillating motion. Or going forward and back in a straight line, reciprocating motion. If you're going to build something, think about what you want it to do. Know your type of motion. I want something that's go up and down, back and forth, swing this way, do that way. Know your type of motion. That's where you want to start. Okay? Maybe you want to know what it is. Is it a fish? Is it an alien? Is it a car? But what kind of motion is it going to go for? Okay? Then, how are you going to get the energy or the motion from your motor or your input to where you want it to go? Well, you got to move the energy from one place to another place. So we got 5 different drive type options in the Lego world. Well, there's pneumatics, but I ain't doing pneumatics right now. you put that on the list, I'll do a talk on pneumatics. So direct drive, just stick it on the motor and make it spin. Well, we're doing gears, and that doesn't really require a gear because it's just going to spin. Okay, that's just direct. That's easy. But you can use gears. We just talked about that. You remember? We talked about that, using gears to connect to together and mesh? No. Wow, okay. Wow. Or gears that go around a corner or 90 degrees, they mesh, and you change direction. You still don't remember that. Oh, my God. Okay, chain drive is kind of cool. Chain drive, the gears are not next to each other. They're like, we're taking some time apart. We're going to be working together, but differently, right? Yeah, you've been there. You know that. It's right, okay. But you're still chained together, right? You're stuck there, but working together, and now you're actually working in the same direction, okay? You get a little forward momentum going. It's good. It's good for relationships, okay? Or belt drive, it's kind of the same thing, but, it's a little more elastic. It's a little more loose, a little more flexible. You do some different stuff with that sort of a drive system. Okay? So different drive. Know how you're going to get the energy from one place to another. That's your drive. So design engineering process. This is something I teach in all my classes. This is something engineers and architects all over the world use. There's different levels of it, but I broke it down to this. Identify the problem. Brainstorm. No, you can read them. I don't have to read them to you. I hate that. People do that on PowerPoints. Right? I may read to you what's on the slide, exactly word for word, so you understand it like I understand it. And you can read it for yourself. You're not that slow. Well, some of you, but okay. But identifying the problem. What's the limitations? What am I trying to achieve? What's my goal? Okay, that's cool. Maybe what are my constraints? I only have these pieces. Okay, that's part of identifying the problem. I don't have any motors, or I only have this type of motor. Okay? It can only be this big, maybe doing a build challenge. That's part of your problem. I want to make it do this. That's part of your problem. Brainstorm ideas. How are you going to come about it? Okay? Design it and plan it, et cetera, et cetera. Okay? So let's walk through this. Identify the problem. Great. I want some sort of a moonscape that has aliens bobbing up and down out of some craters. Okay? That's my identify my problem. Sound doable? Sounds kind of cool to add to a mock somewhere, maybe? Like down in the hall, like I have already. Okay, I'll get there. Okay. All right, I'm going to brainstorm some ideas. How can I do this? What's the scale? How big is this thing going to be? Well, I want it pretty small. So I'm going to make my craters maybe 2 by 2, and my aliens are going to fit within that, so they're going to be probably a 1 by 1, maybe even a Lego head size. That would fit in a 2 by 2 circle. Okay, so that's the size of my crater. That's my scale. What are my motion types? How can I make this thing move? Well, I could use pistons. I could use pneumatics. It would go up. It would go down. That'd be cool. I could use a lever mechanism. It would be oscillating, but maybe the alien kind of comes out in an arc. That could be kind of cool. I could use a linear actuator. Those are cool. I have a few of those stashed away somewhere. If you don't know what that is, Google it. It's a cool piece. Okay, so I got some ideas. Okay, I got some ideas. I brainstormed. When you're brainstorming, come up with more than one idea. Don't go, this is what I want, and this is how I'm going to do it. Damn it. Come up with some idea. Well, I could do it this way. I could do it that way. I could do it this way. Brainstorm. Think of some idea. Talk to your friends. Some of you have those. Okay. Talk to your AFOLs here at the conventions, at your lugs. Hey, I am thinking about doing this thing. Do you have any ideas? Talk to Wayne. If you have an idea about how to do something like that, Wayne, I'm thinking about doing this thing. Wayne will engineer the whole thing for you. He's beautiful. Okay? So brainstorm some ideas. There you go. Make a design plan. Sketch it out if you like sketching, if you want to build it in a studio, if you want to do it with chewing gum and popsicle sticks, whatever you like. But make some kind of a plan so you know what you're doing. If you just do it all in your head, that can work. But an engineering process is more about the process. So now you can go back and reference that and make changes later if you want to. So here I figured out I'm going to use some reciprocating motion, and I'm going to use some cams. I'm going to have something that turns with a cam on it that's going to push something up and down. That's going to be a piston that's going to make my aliens bob up and down. Okay, that's cool. And I want them to go pretty slow, but I want them to go at different paces, different speeds. One's going to go kind of fast, and one's going to bob more slowly, because that's kind of cool. So I'm going to use some compound gearing, and I'll have one alien on the 1 to 5 and one alien on the 25. So it'll be different speeds. And build a little prototype, test it out. This is what I came up with. Here we go. How's that look? What do you notice about it? Or maybe you can't see it because it's too small. They're turning around. Every time the piston comes up and pushes, on the bottom I have a 2 by 2 round skid plate, it pushes and it causes it to rotate a little bit. So it's not just going up and down. It's like, woohoo, 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 woohoo. And I didn't want that. Maybe you like that kind of a thing. It's not my jam. So, you know, for you, we'll hook up later. All right, that's good. That's good. So I tested and I improved. I changed it. I put in some bricks and I put in some solid walls so it can't rotate. Okay, that's cool. And I changed from the skid plates to just a little 2x2 brick with a Technic hole in it that could go on the axle. So now it doesn't rotate. And I decided I'm changing the gearing on the second compounding. It was too slow. The difference between the two was too much. So now the second one's a little bit faster. It's catching up a little bit. Okay, so I balanced it out a little bit. I tested, I improved, I changed it, all just in the prototype. And then, I don't know, added some finishing decorations, some details, and put it on your flickers or your whatevers, if you like. If you have the flickers and whatever. And there we go, and that's what's down in the hall. Okay, so there's a design process. It's not scary, just one step at a time. What do I want? What are my limitations? How could I do it? Which way do I want to do it? Okay, let's try that. And if it doesn't work, go back to your brainstorming session. Well, what was one of the other ways I thought about? Maybe I'll try that. Okay, try a different way. It's easy. It was not easy. It's not easy. It's painful sometimes, but it's a good process. Okay? That's kind of cool. All right, power options. Anybody do power? Oh, okay, cool. I got the 10-minute warning. Okay, we're doing good. Okay, sweet. I saw it, which is good. These are all the Lego power options. I don't think I missed anything. Okay? Lots of them throughout the years. Some of them are very old, but they still work. They're still usable. Some of them are very new, and you could work with them, I suppose. I'm very, very, very hooked on the power functions and the EV3. That's my babies right there. Everything else, meh. But if you want to do programming and make something move with a specific intent or function that's controllable through sensors or through timing, or move this direction and then move the motor the other direction, you can do that through programming. You can do it mechanically as well with some gears, but you could also cheat a little bit and do programming, which is really nice. My plasma ball, anybody seen the plasma ball down there? It's programmed. So it's programmed to spin one direction at a random time, for a random amount of time, in a random direction, at a random speed with parameters. And then it shifts and it goes the other direction. And then it shifts and it goes the other direction. And when it changes direction, it has a quick burst of change in direction. So the top half, which is not attached fully, can shift and pivot and spin independently. So the change in momentum sort of throws it the other direction, and then it goes this way, and then changes and goes back that way. I can do that through programming pretty easily. Mechanically, that's a lot harder, especially in that little tiny footprint that I have as the base. So programming options, powered up. It's got problems. I'll just say it. And Spike Prime, not bad, still has problems, but it's not too bad. EV3, my baby, love the EV3. Spike Prime's pretty cool. I use that at work all the time with all my robotic students. We're programming with that. It's easy drag and drop programming. I'll do a talk on it sometime if you want. Powered up, I've never used the app, but I use the system with just battery, and you can turn it on and off. Or you can get an app on your phone and you can do some little programming on your tablet or whatever you use. Don't do it on your TV. That'd be weird. I don't know how that works. Okay. So power options. Pretty easy. I hope so. More knowledge. What else we got in here? Anybody seen this book? Oh, man, it's like the gospel. I swear. It's good stuff. Good stuff in this book. Cyril makes amazing things, does amazing 2 books, and he's got a great website. With lots of good resources. That chart that I showed you that had all the gear ratios, it's on his chart. It's on his website. You can pull that off there. So that's easy to get to. He's got some references on there where online it'll have an array of Technic holes. You're like, well, I want to use these 2 gears. Where would they mesh? And it'll show you where they go. Or I want to use these 2 gears. What's my gear ratio? And do a little calculator and show you in there. Did find one little error in there that wasn't quite meshing right, but mostly it's a good reference. Build it before you test it. All right, that's my talk. If you want to build some mechanisms, I do have this one link, bit.ly mechanisms by Brandon, capital letters and stuff, where it's little instructions of where you can build some little mechanisms. I did that a couple years ago. Get some pieces at home, build these little things. This is a little gear thing that moves and turns, and then take it apart and build a different one, fun little way. Or you can go to Cyril's site and get some stuff there. If you want to email me, please do that with any questions or concerns or criticisms. Yeah, I'm talking to you. Or any ideas. So I think I probably have about 5 minutes left, I'm guessing-ish. Oh, it's a 7. Wow, man, I got all kinds of time in the world. Whew. Good thing I got up at 5 and went through this thing again. Make sure I had it timed right. You guys are so awesome. So questions. If we have questions, I think the protocol is Mike, go up, not Mike like a person, Mike, go to the mic, and only mics can do questions, okay? Lori's can't do questions. Sorry, Lori. Yeah. Questions? Got a question?
Hi, I have questions from people on the Zoom, and they want to know if this slideshow PowerPoint is available at a later date. Can it be shared? Can it be on the BrickCon website or on the Discord server?
I know this recording is intended to be recorded by BrickCon and then shared on the BrickCon super secret YouTube channel, wherever that thing is hidden and locked down. So the whole presentation should be available online. As far as sharing the actual PowerPoint, I've done that a couple times. I feel kind of mixed feelings about that because it's like, man, that's a lot of stuff out there. I've had a couple of people actually take my PowerPoints and take them to schools and use them in schools to do teaching of education, and that's kind of cool in places. So maybe email me directly and we'll have a conversation about if you want the actual file. It's kind of weird. But I don't know, maybe it's cool. I don't know, it's kind of weird. Could be cool. All right, that's it for online. That's the best thing the online people have. Check the toaster for your Pop-Tarts, people. Come on. Jeez, all right. Oh, we got Mike. Oh, we got Mike over here. I think it's this aisle. I don't know if that one's live. Is that one live?
Does this one work?
Well, yeah.
I think so. I just had a question about complexity. You ever find that you have so many gears that they just don't work from one end to the other, or there's limitations with plastic? I've even found in some official Lego models that it's hard to get everything working. It's just so much.
Yes, great question. Is there limitations on the gears? We talked about the transfer of speed and torque. There is some loss in speed and torque in just the resistance of the gears pushing. You just compound that out by putting 400 Greek gears together. Okay, the input and the output, they should be really close to the same speed, but there's going to be resistance along the way, so you may be losing some of the torque out there. So there will be some loss. There will be some wear. Sometimes the wear is on the axles, running through whatever it's running through. Hope that wasn't offensive to everybody there. But that's how that one works. And so you can definitely have friction there, or the gears rubbing against whatever they're up against. Maybe if you've done mechanical things, you run the thing for the convention for 4 days and you take it home and there's all this white powder all over the place in the axle. Yeah, that's just the plastic rubbing its way down and it just wears down. So you can have resistance there. Mechanically, there is wear, there is resistance. I've encountered it. I try to use as few gears as possible and try to minimize rubbing as much as possible. I had one mock where I actually got some dry lubricant, I think it's graphite lubricant. I don't know whoever knows that. Thank you. And it just made everything in my thing, the whole Lego, everything turned gray because there was this graphite everywhere. I'm like, well, that's kind of sucks. It ruined all my Lego. But it did help with a little bit of lubrication. I wouldn't wet lubricate it though. Okay, that help? Okay, cool. Yeah.
Is there a way to set up a function where I want set of gears to perform a specific set of functions in a row and then reset itself to then do those again?
No, there's no way to do that.
Okay.
No, I'm kidding. Yeah. I've done timing belts and things where you can have a chain with an element on there that would hit something and engage it every so often.
Okay.
And so you could cause an engagement through a timing belt. I've seen some other mechanisms that'll do a similar type of thing. I think it was Calvin years ago had Indiana Jones, Raiders of the Lost Ark thing, and he had the giant ball that would roll down and a mechanism that would move the ball along through a bunch of levers and things, and it was timed where it would eventually catch the ball and then move it up a ramp and then reset it, and then it would time out and then launch the ball down and chase Indiana Jones back down the thing again.
Okay.
Poor Indiana. So yeah, timing belts and functions like that.
Yeah.
If that's sort of what I'm thinking of.
Yep, thank you.
Okay, fantastic. You guys are awesome.
I have another online question. Yes. How can I build a gate that can move up and down?
Ooh, up and down. Up and down is going to be straight up and down motion. If you just want to move it up, that's linear motion. up one direction. If you want it to go up and then back down again, now we got reciprocating motion. Okay, so it's going to move up and then back down again. We got to talk about reciprocating motion. How do we do that? There's lots of ways. Depends on the gate. We'd have to brainstorm what the functions could be. You could use some arms, levers that would move up and down to attach to the gate. And as you move those with some gears that could move this one up and down, it would actually lift the gate up and down. You could have the gate mounted to rack gears. And if you had a whole bunch of rack gears, those are the flat ones, for those of you that were sleeping through that section, you could have a gear that would roll up and down the rack gear and just have the gate attached to that or attached to assembly that would go with that. So lots of different ways to do it. The exact functionality of it, I mean, it's Lego. It's like, well, how do you build a house? I don't know, there's lots of ways. So that's a hard one to say exactly how to do it, but there are definitely functions and ways to do that. You can definitely hit me up online. I've had people do that before. I'm trying to do this thing. If you have any ideas, where do I start? So I would start